Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now on with the show.
Welcome back. This is the SMG Blacklist podcast. I'm one of your hosts, number 23 on your list, Jacqueline Grosky. And with me is...
Number 13, Melissa Maxey.
So we're here to talk about episode number 13, 93 on our list, The Deer Hunter. So what did you think about the show, Melissa?
Well, let's talk about The Deer Hunter. Let's just get to the meat of it.
So is it a he or a she? That was the big...
Well, right, that was the big debate. Is it a he or is it a she? So what does the deer hunter do? The deer hunter... basically...
The deer hunter... Oh, go ahead.
The deer hunter basically, strings up these guys and, totally guts them out like a deer.
Well,
that's how they find him. That poor little girl when she was walking to school.
Yeah. And, it's all about domination. This is, what Liz surmises is that this is kind of a slight man. He's got to get his victims from farther away because, generally men like that close combat. They want to overpower their victims. Where this one clearly has a distance from their victims. They've been shot with a crossbow, killed, and then strung up, and then a ceremonial bite out of the liver.
Yeah.
And of course, this leads to the undoing later because they can measure out the bite marks.
Yeah, that's how they start figuring it out. But Red's the one that tells Lizzie that it's not a man, it's a woman.
Right, and no. Wasn't it the other way? Yeah, no, Lizzie says, this is clearly a woman, where, he says...
No, because he says... See, we're all twisted up.
Oh, shoot, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Red tells the team it isn't a buck at all, but instead a delicate doe.
Oh, that's right. How could I get that mixed up? So, yeah, but she's insisting that this is... a man serial killer who's trying to control the victims, but his theory is that she's done this from far away for a reason, because it's a girl and probably had some sort of abuse. I think that was,
Well, there were 12 victims.
Right. So, they just they keep popping up during the episode, and so then we find out that the deer hunter, in fact, is a woman, and she has, kind of come out of retirement to help these women.
Yeah, these women with husbands or men in their life that are controlling or abusive, and she's helping them. We see her talking with one of the wives about her husband and how he treats her and what she wants to do, and she persuades her that this is the right thing to do.
And it was funny. I thought they would have kind of held that up, that kind of information, held it up a little while longer. But this was the old, Columbo style, where, you got the identity of the blacklister fairly early on, and we just kind of waiting and watching the task force kind of come to that conclusion. So it's not like Berlin, where it took 3 or 4 episodes to find out who it was. I thought we found out fairly quickly.
Yeah, because Wrestler and Liz go talk with the woman that, the deer hunter, her name is it Tracy?
Uh-huh.
And as they're talking, Liz kind of gets the impression that the person that they're talking to knows a little bit more information, and she starts, kind of messing with her a little bit, kind of, getting her to think that they know more than they do. And when they leave there, they talk about how they're going to come back and get more information out of her because they think that she's lying about it, that maybe she knows who's doing it or what happened to her husband.
Right, because, and this is a thing that I thought that they could have used more often is Lizzie is a profiler, and Lizzie picked up on the fact that this lady was lying, at least hiding something. So they kind of sit back and just kind of wait, and sure enough, she's freaked out and goes to the deer hunter's house. She's like, "What are you doing here?" And hey, they're asking around, and so she's fairly nervous. Of course, I skipped over the fact that the Tracy has had numerous conversations with her parakeet.
Yeah, let's talk about the crazy little sessions that she's had in her house where she's talking to herself and, like, telling herself that it's really the best thing that she could do and she's really helping out, and the parakeets, or the little, were they parakeets? Yeah, they were. And, she was talking to the birds, and it was like the bird lady, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's whacked out of her mind.
Yeah, this lady has lost it. Of course, we'll come back to this later on. She has a motivation that's kind of come through her husband, but we don't find that out till the end. So, in the meantime, let's go back to the fulcrum, because Red kind of finally says, "Look, I read people. I know you're hiding it, and it's like, when you're ready, I guess you'll tell me," kind of vibe.
He's done this before.
Well,
he did the same thing about Tom when she was hiding Tom.
Exactly.
Red knows everything. He knows everything. And so, but he likes it. He lets her, lets her make the decision to come to him, and he knows she will eventually.
Right.
He knows that if he tries to force it out of her, she's never going to give it up.
Right. Of course, this time she's saying, "What was the deal? It's something, I'll tell you where the fulcrum is."
Yeah, she wants to know what it's about.
Oh, yeah. And, we know what it's about. It's the evidence that keeps Red alive. Of course, I don't think even Red knows truly what it's about. I think he knows that contains information against the group that really kind of would prefer him dead.
Yeah.
So I think that's why Red is motivated to get it, just to have that safety net, but to find out what really is in this little tiny box.
I saw something in the episode, and I've been on Twitter and I've been on Instagram talking with a couple of people that are, following us about, the incident where Red is in, it was right after he talked to Lizzie, and he goes up to, Aram, and he ruffles his hair. He, messes with him. And it was kind of a funny little, tidbit about talking about how he used to have a full head of hair like that too.
Uh-huh.
But there was something weird happened, and it caught my eye, because Samara was watching the exchange.
Uh-huh.
And Red looked back at her, and they kind of nodded or something. And it was weird, and it caught my eye, and I was like, so I started asking around. I'm like, well, does anybody think that Red has Samar and Aram's relationship kind of going so that he can have more tabs on him? And I had a few people say, oh no, it's all fun and games, blah, blah, blah. But I had a few people actually say, yeah, they thought that was a possibility, that because Red knows everything and he tries to control everything, that he may be using Samar and Amar's relationship to get information, or to maybe have some sort of hold over him or something, because he knows that Amar is really smart and he knows that he's really close with Liz, And he probably knows about the fulcrum. You know,
well,
that
we
Amar
know,
had seen it or touched it or whatever.
Well, we know that Samar is Liz's go-to guy. We also know that Amar is Red's go-to guy. But see, I think the motivation is fear. I don't think the motivation is Samar for Red, because I think Amar really is afraid of Red and thinks, if I don't produce, he is going to do something nasty or to kill me. And he's Red has kind of implied that, but never once said it, but he let Aram kind of believe that for the sake of...
Well, and he had Aram do a little task for him, because while Lizzie's running around looking for the deer hunter, Red's running around looking for the person that he tried to call from after he got the briefcase out of the limo.
Right.
And so he has Amar do a little task for him to find out where a phone call came from. And I know that Amar's kind of in his pocket, but I still think it's like Red's playing chess.
Yeah,
and he's like got all the players.
Yeah, it might be a setup for later on.
Yeah, maybe.
Somehow, but I think we know that Amar is really has the hots for Samar.
Yes, we know that.
And, I think the whole thing was he was actually trying to move his hairline back, because for Israelis, I think, that receding hairline is a sign of leadership and desirable. And she actually has to say, look, I like your hair the way it is. And it did,
you're sexy anyway.
Right. So, I think that Red really kind of knows that he's got a crush on her. That Aram has that crush, or Amar, and
that she may have feelings towards him too, but...
Right, but it's more, who knows? I mean, right now I think, he's kind of the gentle genius, and she is...
Ruthless,
Israeli Mossad assassin. So
yeah,
it's a very odd pairing.
It's kind of like a reverse Beauty and the Beast.
It kind of is. Yeah, except neither of them are particularly ugly. But he's just not even that kind of culture. So I think Red was kind of acknowledging that, like, hey, look what your boyfriend did, kind of look. You're like, I could see it. I hope you see it. So we'll see. I mean, if the Twitter sphere sometimes is wrong, but sometimes they're right. They could do some sort of underpinning or use this as leverage, but I think they still kind of intimate that the motivation that Red has is still fear because of that very first incident where Red really didn't know him that well and said, "Oh yeah, because I have like this amount of time, and while I put this gun together, you better figure this out. And if I get the gun put together and I get the bullets in the chamber, I'm going to shoot you." Right. But he also, at the time, thought that he might have been the mole. So this was really a test where he's passed the test, but I think he's still playing on that old fear. I don't think that, the relationship between Samar and that is to leverage, Amar, because there's so many other things that you can do with that. For some reason, he's got a handle on her, and I don't think it's going to come up just yet. Yeah. So we got to see Dembe a little bit in this episode. He actually took a call for Red because Red was busy doing some other stuff, and they were watching him. So he, while he was on the phone with them, he's like, "I am here, to talk with you because Red can't make it." And they're like, "Well, hope it's important." They made a comment, yeah. And I think they did that to stretch this out a little bit, but I think it's kind of disappointing because if this was a meeting with Red and somebody had done that, Red would have been furious and probably stopped any negotiation at all.
Yeah, well, he just wants to know who's on the other end of the line, so that's his biggest thing.
Right.
And they just showed the guy in the window. We couldn't even tell who he was or anything, and him talking on the phone. So.
Yeah, I just think if you're setting up a super secret meeting that involves maybe your life or life-giving information, that you really would make a bigger attempt. But we do see the motivation, because while they're doing that, they're transporting the prime suspect in the investigation on Liz on the Doc Masters murder.
Right. And now we get to the point where, because the officer has a witness, and he wants to bring him in so he wants to bring Lizzie in, because he said that Lizzie was there and witnessed the whole thing, and so he wants to get her, indicted. And so here's Red, making a deal with one of the officers who's going to be transporting the witness.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to talk to him, and the guy brings him what did he bring him? Like some coffee cake or something? That was awesome.
Yeah, it was like some special
like
New York.
His wife makes. So that he can have a meeting, with the guy that saw Lizzie, and so they do a scheduled stop. Like, he's in a transport vehicle, and they pull over, and the guy gets out, and Red goes in, and they're sitting, and he's like, I heard that your brother's sick, and he needs a heart transplant?
I think
or kidney?
Yeah, it was, I forget now that you mentioned it. I was thinking
maybe it's his kidneys.
It was heart or kidneys or liver. It was something like, but it was a major transplant, and he's waiting to get on the list, and Red says, I could get you on the list, but you have to do something for me. And so he gets back to the interview and says, okay, well, tell the district attorney what you told me, because I don't remember. I don't remember nothing.
He's got like 10 guys in the room, and they're like recording it, and the guy totally like freaks out on him, and he's sweating. He's like rubbing his hands together, and he's like, oh my gosh, what in the heck happened?
It's funny, Lizzie at this point is ready just to turn herself in. She's like, this was an op. I didn't stop Tom from doing it, even if it was Tom, because Wrestler really says, hey, look, all this like self-aggrandizement that you're doing, this affects the team. They're gonna bring down the task force. We cannot handle scrutiny in a big investigation. And
and all the blacklisters that they've captured have saved people's lives.
Right, and you almost kind of, with all the little side things, you kind of forget that that's what this task force is really doing, is getting these dangerous criminals that are so dangerous people don't even know who they are.
Speaking of dangerous criminals, back to the deer hunter, Lizzie and Wrestler go back to that lady's house, and the deer hunter lady, Tracy's inside talking to her about how that Liz and Wrestler talked to her the previous day, and she sees Liz and Wrestler coming up to the house, and so she kills the lady. Like, she whacks her.
Well, tries to kill her. I think she did survive, but it took a big, thick wood cutting block and just smacks her across the head.
So what happens? They split up. Wrestler and Liz split up. Wrestler goes inside, and Liz goes after Tracy through the forest, or through the neighborhood, and gets captured. She gets whacked by a shovel.
It's another thing for getting word for getting captured? Kidnapped. The running theme on the show. Last time it was Wrestler, we had Red getting kidnapped, then Wrestler getting kidnapped, and Wrestler getting kidnapped again, Liz getting kidnapped, and Liz getting kidnapped yet again.
Everybody's making a big deal about how there's so many kidnappings on the show, but that's the fun part. because it's suspenseful, it's traumatic, it's dramatic, and
it's automatic.
We like to see who's gonna rescue who, and in this case, Liz rescued herself because she got strung up and hung up and hooked up
and
by the deer hunter.
And she uses the Tom move. What the heck was that about? She uses the Tom move. He strangled that guy with his... Didn't he strangle that guy with his feet? Because he was all tied up. Yeah. She's like, oh, I can't believe I didn't save that guy. And she's, to save her life, she gets her and she's doing the chokehold of death, the leg lock, like,
with her legs, with her thighs.
Wild woman of wrestling move.
I know.
And then wrestler
and the whole time, she's thinking about all of these instances that she had with Tom. Like, she's using all of her anger against Tom to, like, strangle this woman to death with her legs.
Yeah, and wrestler kind of walks in almost as she's, like, completely strangled this woman, is like, no, Liz, stop. It's like, hey, the only reason that she's still, Liz isn't dead right now is because she was, using the Tom, wrestling move.
And you want to know how many Thigh Masters were sold after that episode? 1 million.
1 million Thigh Masters. Maybe even 1 billion.
Mini-me.
That's doctor to you. I did not go to evil medical school to be called Mr. Thank You. Oh, my bad.
I thought, we've talked about how Liz has always been, like, in the first season, how much of a, how she was so pliant and she was a rookie and she just kind of let things happen to her. And this season, she's really kind of stepped up her game. She's really taking it. She still has her moments, but for the most part, as far as with all of the, blacklisters, she's really starting to be more ruthless about it. And it's changed her. Everything that she's been through, every step of the way has changed her. She's, she's becoming a darker Liz.
Well, you kind of have to be in this kind of task force, and I wonder if this show is more about the seduction of Lizzie than it is about Red. Like, I think everybody thinks, obviously this show is about, James Spader's character, Red Reddington. But I wonder if the true nature of the show is to show, the
transformation of Liz.
Right. And, that's a big distinction because she was barely capable in the beginning. She was always getting taken advantage of. She was always in the wrong place at the wrong time. Red was having to rescue her numerous times and just making bad decision after bad decision. And then, and this episode, she's more competent. She's taking charge.
She's more confident. She actually, like, when she was all strung up and hung up, she was egging Tracy on. Like, just like, get it over with already. If you're gonna kill me, kill me.
Right.
It's like, she had no emotion.
Well, I don't think it was being emotionless. I think it was psychological.
She was profiling her.
Yeah, it was because this woman didn't kill because she wanted to. That crazy part of her really was still trying to, get back control from her husband. Her husband had... Yeah, go ahead.
What was her husband, who was her husband?
Well, her husband was the original deer hunter. And not only had been killing, that he'd been killing these people, but he was the serial killer, but I think that she was abused as well. And so she had to take back control, and she saw the opportunity to kind of do what he did to people that were taking advantage of women. Because all the perpetrators, after a certain point, were now some sort of abusers, and even at some point she retired. And then, of course, then they find out that she's been working with this support network.
Yeah, that's the White Haven.
The White Haven. So, she gets, she gets, like the whole time she's talking to her parakeet, she knows this is bad. She just can't be doing this. So I think she's really trying to. I think she wanted to take the torch and have somebody else take it over so she could stop. But what Liz was doing was saying, look, I'm not an abuser. You're here to do this because you want to, not because you have to avenge anything. And then, of course, Tracy flips.
Yeah. That's when Liz gets her chance. Because she gets her to come close enough to her that she's able to wrap her legs around her neck.
Yeah. And, man, just what a powerful scene. It was
fabulous.
And it's funny how, Liz has gotten fairly judgmental throughout the entire series about Red and what a bad guy he is and, how could Tom do this? But I think, the seduction of Liz, she's really kind of going down that same path. So the question is, because she's on this task force, is it more righteous? Is she any different, than Tom? Is she different?
Right.
Is she different than Red? And she didn't turn in the fulcrum. She's holding on to it. She didn't turn in Tom.
No, because,
she broke numerous laws.
Yeah.
And she lost control of the situation. So, there's still that kind of weird vulnerability. I think that's the thing that frustrates people is that, Liz really has that kind of, some sort of internal flaw.
So, Red finds out that location where that guy called him from Aram, and him and Denme go and stake the place out, and all they find there is the phone and an overturned chair and lamp and some blood.
Yeah, and
that was kind of a weird, anticlimactic scene.
Yeah, so does somebody else already kind of looking for this guy? But it just doesn't make sense because he's the only one with the number.
Yeah.
Maybe Tom got a line on this guy and, there's no reason for the blood unless somebody else got a hold of it.
The last scene between Reddington and Lizzie was really good. I like how they end the episodes with Liz and Red having a conversation about what happened, at that moment. And Liz told him that she had the fulcrum, and she said she wasn't going to give it to him until he told her what it was. And then he told her that he wasn't going to tell her because he's trying to keep her from danger. And she's like, "You can't protect me." And he said that he knew that she was afraid because if she gave him the fulcrum, that she was afraid that he was not going to be a part of her life anymore, that he wasn't going to be around anymore, that he wouldn't need her because if he had the fulcrum, he wouldn't need her. And she
doesn't ever reply.
She didn't reply. She just walked off.
Yeah.
And he watched her go.
I think he's just kind of that spider with the web. He's, she'll come to the conclusion herself. It
was my favorite part of the episode. The parts when Red and Liz are together, and they talked about how they both, she had thought it was a man and he thought it was a woman, and he made a comment about how both of them together knew the answer.
Right.
And I think that really is the key point of the series. It's Red and Lizzie together. They are the ones they're together. They get the answers.
Right. Well, and if you think back, we still don't have the answer about what's the relationship between Red and Lizzie. We thought we had it.
Well, we have this big debate, and I actually got on Instagram, and for the last 2 days have been debating with people on Instagram about the Red and Lizzie situation. Because I told them that you and I are kind of, you think that Red is Lizzie's father, and I'm hoping he's not. And there's people all over there are people on both sides. Because the writers have actually come out and said that they've told us. They said they've told us what their relationship's about. But all of us are still going, well, what is it? Because we don't really know the answer. And then they said that it's really not as cut and dried as it seems. That there really is it would be too easy for him to be her father. That really there's something else going on. And so everybody's like, just give us something. Just give us like one little tidbit. Like they don't have to know. Like Liz doesn't need to know, but we need to know. We want to know as the audience.
Yeah, when you drag that super secret out for so long, there is a period where people either get frustrated or just lose interest. And I think at this point, people have just figured out, you know what, we're not going to find out. Because on that particular episode where they went back to the fire, this was Luther Braxton Part 2, everybody said, finally we get to find out, and we didn't. So I think people have gotten past that. It's like, you know what, if it happens, it happens. I've already made my opinion, and at this point, discussion is, I don't want to say fruitless, but is it worth my time to try and figure out their relationship anymore? Because, we keep
debating the same thing.
Right.
We keep debating the same thing over. We don't have any new information to really push it forward any further. And I'm hoping that because they told us, in the preview for the next episode that Tom's coming back.
Right.
I'm hoping that Tom will be a catalyst for some more information.
Well,
because we want to know, we know that Red and Tom have a history. I mean, they work together, and Red was involved with getting Tom and Liz together, and Liz is gonna find that out, so that's gonna be a huge, next big thing that happens.
Well, did they get together, or in the midst of this, Red finally said, look, I gotta put a leash on you, I'm promising you a whole lot of money to stop this foolishness. So, we have yet to figure that out.
We don't know for sure if Red was involved in, Tom and Liz even getting together, because Tom was there the whole time, watching Liz. I mean, he wasn't, he was under somebody's orders to marry her.
Right.
And watch over her. So
but
was it
we were
Red's
led
orders?
We were led to believe that this was all Berlin, but, the whole time, Tom is saying, do not trust Red. I'm telling you, this guy isn't trustworthy.
Yes.
And, he knew something, and Liz just didn't want to hear it. Of course, we spent every episode that, she figures something out about Red has done something, and she won't talk to him for the first 15 minutes. And, and that's what's going to happen when Tom comes back up, because that is his relationship is going to come to light. I don't think there'll be further information about, who's her father. I think, going back to the whole relationship, how that started with Tom, like you were saying, is going to come to light, and, and Lizzie's going to be, very surprised and mad.
And we still have Wrestler's deal with his addiction, and he mentioned a little bit about it in the episode when he was reaming Liz after she, he told her to stop, not kill Tracy.
Right.
And outside the house, he was basically telling her not to, give herself up because, and he's like, I'm in a lot of pain, and, he talked about how much pain he was in.
Right. It's funny, somebody that's going through that, it should be, kind of hinted at every episode, and just about the time you think, oh, they've really kind of forgotten about it, they remind us. They kind of go back to these things. Well, what about at the very end when Liz is actually, she's, screw it, I'm turning myself in, and she sees the officer after this complete disaster. His witness won't
debacle.
Yeah. So he's chosen to go to jail to save his brother. So he looks like an idiot. And of course, this homeless guy comes up to him, he gives him a couple bucks. Here's a few more. Hey, there's a homeless shelter at, 5th and Clark. And so it's showing how, nice a guy, this is. However, I didn't really, okay, why are you showing us this? He's going after a murder during a federal investigation. Like, his whole thing is to bring Lizzie down. Does he think he's championing the plight of the poor harbor master? Or, I don't get his motivation here.
Well, I think that the whole scene was just because Liz was sitting in her car watching him. You know, I think that it was just a kind of like sympathy thing. Like, I don't know. It was kind of kind of a weird scene because
it was heartwarming, but where are they going with that?
I don't know, because Liz, I mean, it didn't even show her, I mean, it was a weird scene because Liz was in her car watching him do all of that, but we didn't see her get out of her car or leave, or, I mean, it just switched scenes. Like, it was just that one little snippet, and then they left it.
Right, so, you know, okay, he's a nice guy.
And then
she got close, but she changed her mind. I mean, that part I understood, but it was just kind of a weird, it was a weird exchange. You know, if you're showing me this, how nice a guy he is in his personal life, there's got to be a reason. So, is Liz going to do him a solid, or is this just to show, how Liz is kind of unraveling to the dark side, and, she's hurt this very nice investigator so that,
like a morality lesson or something?
Yeah. Yeah, and, that's all I can figure. Maybe they'll go back to that. I mean, we all know that if this is a show about Liz and Red, that she is not going to federal prison for this,
Yeah, no, he's going to make sure that never happens.
Right.
He did.
Yeah. It's almost kind of, it's interesting because, the reality is these kind of things don't get kind of swept under the carpet. But usually if somebody from a federal agency says, this was part of a federal operation, in truth, it probably just would have stopped there. But, things have to get answered, and, sometimes agents, I'm sure sometimes agents go to jail over that stuff, but not when they're a star of a TV show. So you're not taking our Liz anytime soon. I guess that's what I'm saying. So we're kind of, have we played out everything here in the episode?
Yeah, I think we wrapped it up.
So, where does Reddington get his hats from? We had that in...
Okay, we had someone tell...
Was it Facebook?
Okay, so, yeah, our Facebook account, we got a message from a Thomas Fisher. He says, James Spader wears mostly Borsalino fedoras, like the Borsalino Fortissima limited edition in olive from the pilot at $625. They buy the hats at JJ Hat Center in Manhattan and have some custom hats made by Worth and Worth.
Oh, very nice.
He posted a beautiful picture.
Yeah, I'd like to get one of those, except for the fact that they're $600. I think I'd rather make 2 car payments.
Very beautiful hat.
I may have to go with the Stetson. I think the Stetson ones are around the $70 range. So we were talking. Let's talk about some of the in the blacklist products that you can get nowadays.
Oh yeah, I saw a laptop bag, black, and it had the blacklist written on the front flap section. That was really fabulous.
Very cool.
And they actually have a hat on. They have a hat, like a fedora hat that you can buy, and it's $125.
Ah.
They have all sorts of accessories.
It's a Stetson.
Is it?
Yeah.
Are you looking at it?
I'm looking at it. Red Stetson Mercury in saddle. If you go to the blacklist, it's NBC Universal Store, and they have the blacklist. They have a Never Trust a Criminal men's T-shirt. The blacklist rocks glass. Blacklist tie. Season 1 DVD. The mug. The blacklist wine bottle set, where it's a wine bottle case and has wine bottle openers. Let's see, power bank and flashlight for your phone. More T-shirts, the Red Stetson Mercury fedora, and actually it's $179.
Oh, it is?
Yes, that is top quality. Stetson are very nice. I've got a Stetson straw cowboy hat, and it is very well made. There's the laptop messenger bag, the phone cover. let's see, what else? Blu-ray, so yeah, that's, if you're into some logo wear, you can get the scarf, the Blacklist whiskey set stones, and they look like,
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, they look like, like granite maybe, and you freeze them, and then
whiskey. Then you put them in your whiskey, and then it doesn't dilute.
Doesn't dilute it. Although, some of the cheap whiskeys, sometimes it's nice to dilute them a little bit.
Yes, I have an ice ball maker. It's very good.
Oh, very cool.
It forms these ice blocks into an ice sphere that I can put in my bourbon. It's really good.
Very nice. Red would be proud. We'll have to think of a quote, something if you go to our Facebook, let's come up with a quote that what Red would say about the ice balls in the whiskey. So
I think they should have that in the show.
That would be fun. Let's see, any Spader news? Anything new about
after the episode on Thursday? He was on Jimmy Fallon, wasn't he?
He was. So yeah, we could. I think a lot of those clips go on YouTube. Oh, and here's the last thing is there you can go to YouTube and there is a lot. You can
follow the Blacklist.
Yeah, you can follow the Blacklist, and they have a lot of extras and upcoming things. So if you're really into the show and doing that, check out the YouTube account that the Blacklist has. All right. Well, I think we'll stick a fork in this one. Call it done.
The Deer Hunter is done.
All right. Well, this was the SMG Blacklist podcast. This has been brought to you by the Southgate Media Group at www.southgatemediagroup.com. Check out our sponsors on the link. Check out our other podcasts and blog. There's many there. Like one of the ones I do is called Nuff Said, and the Trumpet Talk podcast and blog. There's many others. Cuckoo for Who, and Input Junkie. Many things to follow and check out. And
our podcast, Bosch Pod.
Yes, the new Bosch podcast. It's all about Harry Bosch, the new original series off Amazon. In fact, they released the entire series, so you can actually binge watch it, but we're doing a show, Melissa and I, once a week. And what's the Twitter accounts for all that?
So our Twitter account for the Blacklist is Blacklist Pod. Our Instagram is The Blacklist Pod, and that is also our Facebook, The Blacklist Pod. Bosch is Bosch Pod. It's at Bosch Pod for Twitter. And the Instagram, me and my partner it's the Bosch TV fan group. And we also have a Twitter account.
Very cool. And don't forget to go to iTunes and like us, because we like to be liked. And the more people that like us, the more people will hear about our show. So I think that takes it all the way to the end. So until next time.
See you then.
Boom. Come on. There we go.
It records.
Yep, we're recording.